Thanks, Chad. That was very kind of you. And that time that he stayed with us and the trip got extended, that's become kind of a legend around our house. What Chad didn't mention is he was there and spent a few extra days, and he's the kind of person that if something like that were to happen, he's the one you want to have there. I forgot what was going on, but something happened, and Michelle had to go one direction, I had to go another. And Chad said, no problem, I'll take care of the kids. He just stepped in and took care of the kids. And they were playing ball, and they were having a great time of things. The other thing he didn't tell you is that while that was going on, my brother's 95-year-old mother-in-law also got stranded in town. So Chad was not only there, but my brother's mother-in-law, 95 on all kinds of medications, and just kind of a chaotic time around the household, but one that the whole family treasures. It was just a great time and some of the great memories of their childhood. I can't come to Bremen without saying a word of thank you to this congregation. There's not a whole lot of places I can go and say, honestly, GBN wouldn't be here today were it not for this congregation. You all have been that significant to the work. And I say that just so you realize how big of an impact you've had on the Gospel Broadcasting Network. It has been absolutely fantastic, and we appreciate the support from this congregation, not only financial support, but moral support. This congregation has always been an encourager of the work. To be honest with you, when Don and I talked before I made this trip, he was jealous. He said, oh, I want to go to Bremen. It's a great congregation. I said, I beat you to it. Just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be here with you all today. Chad mentioned Barry Gilreath Sr. GBN was his idea. And I don't know if it's hit you yet, but this month is the 10th anniversary of GBN being on the air. Thanksgiving weekend, back in 2005, was when GBN started. And for those of you who are interested, Thanksgiving night at 7 o'clock in the evening, when we usually run GBN Live, this year, Thanksgiving night, we're going to air an hour-and-a-half long special celebrating the 10-year anniversary. And give you just a little hint of what you're going to see there. Jim Dearman came into the studio and spent some time with us. Barry Gilreath Jr., Barry Sr.'s son, came and spent some time in the studio with us as well. Barry's widow, Skip McNutt, one of the elders, the two of them have some comments. One of Barry's grandsons has some comments as well. And Lord willing, if everything goes well tomorrow evening, your preacher here is going to be recording a short segment for us that will be a part of that program. So we're looking forward to that. How is GBN doing? GBN's doing well. The eldership that we have, I've got to tell you, they have been a huge blessing to the work. These three men are not only godly men, they not only give good spiritual wisdom, they've got a whole lot of business sense. Every one of them has a strong business background and has really brought a lot to the network. Under their leadership, as Chad alluded to, we are debt-free, have been, and will remain that way. We've been able to buy equipment and make upgrades and make significant strides and do it in a very fiscally responsible manner. The elders are there truly supporting the work, truly helping us to do the things that we're able to do. We're so very thankful for their efforts. The new facility we have there in Olive Branch, we purchased that several years ago, and we were able to pay it off before we got into it. Very thankful for that. We've been in there for 3 years now, and I have to tell you, it's as wonderful as it was the day we walked in. As we've made improvements and changes, and GBN's starting to pick up a little bit of steam, a little bit of momentum, and the facility still works well for us. Very thankful for that. We still have more room to grow in there. So we're thankful for that facility that the Lord has blessed us with. And we are indeed debt-free. We've had a few staffing changes over the past year, things that would normally happen. Some of the guys who came in, young guys, first job, got some experience, and worked with us for a couple of years. And they have gone on to other opportunities. Still members of the congregation there at South Haven, wonderful relationships. But some of our former employees are gone. There's one of the fellows there, this one right here, a former employee, rather brazen young man, married my daughter back about a year ago, and he's gone off to preaching school. So excited that he's continued to pursue working in spreading the gospel even outside of GBN. The Preaching the Gospel program, over 34 million homes it reaches. That's still our flagship program, still the one that's available to more and more people all over the country, and has been very successful. One of the things that we're hoping to do this next year is add some more additional programming nationwide. Trying to do, not just have the Preaching the Gospel program, but get more and more nationwide programming. You know, the dream has always been with GBN to have the whole network nationwide 24/7. Back about 3 years ago, right after I started working with GBN, received a call from Dish Network. And they said, would you all like to have a channel on our system 24/7? I said, absolutely. Would love to. He said, great, that's $5 million a year. He picked up the phone about a month later, called me again. He said, we're running a special. I can get you on for a whole year for $3 million. I said, that's a significant improvement. How about this? Let's keep having this conversation. In about 2 months, we'll be ready to make a deal. He didn't think that was as funny as you and I think it is. But we're talking that kind of money to get on Dish Network or DirecTV or the big cable systems. And so the dream is there, and if the Lord wills and something happens, absolutely we'll take advantage of opportunities that come before us. But I'm not holding my breath. You know, over the years, GBN hasn't been as successful with those big cable systems. But the smaller systems, we've had excellent penetration. We've had excellent response from the smaller cable systems. And one of the things we're going to work to do is try and work with those smaller cable systems this next year and still try to reach out nationwide, but by using just a few programs and try to get those nationwide, get people used to seeing some of our programming and begging for more. That's the desire, to get people wanting more and more of this. So the two programs we're looking at right now to possibly take nationwide, one is the program GBN Live, which has really become our most watched program on the network. Right now it airs on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. To go nationwide, we may have to change the time on that, but we'll still keep the same format with it. Another program that we're looking at very seriously is the Counterpoint program. That program has Mike Hickson and B.J. Clark, and the two of them just kind of bounce biblical topics back and forth. So why that program? December 1st of last year, we started, one of the brethren in the area gave us some funds to broadcast that locally in the Memphis area, just on a local station, just right there. And within the first 6 months, we had 3 baptisms as a result of that program there in the Memphis area. It seems to be catching traction with people, so we're going to try to expand that and see if we can have those type of results elsewhere in the country. Honey and Howie, our cartoons. Don may have talked about this a little bit last year when he was here. These cartoons were done by our interns over the last couple of summers. And after we started airing these cartoons, we actually had a brother who had read about it in the newsletter. And he called very concerned. He said, I don't know what you guys are doing with GBN, but cartoons, that's entertainment, and I don't want to have any part of that. I said, well, sir, would you mind if we sent you a copy of these programs so you can watch them and see what it is we're talking about? He said, okay, I will, but I'm very concerned. Sent him a DVD with the programs on it. He called about a week and a half later, and he had two things to say. He said, number one, I was wrong. That's not entertainment. That is significant gospel preaching on a level that a 3- and 4-year-old can understand. And he said, the second thing I'd like for you to do is double my contribution each month. Very thankful for that, and these cartoons have done a lot for the very youngest people, and Lord willing, we're going to be doing even more of those in the future. When we go to lectureships and things like that, the kids see the cartoons, and they're glued to the screen. My granddaughter comes over to the house, and she is glued to the screen watching Honey and Howie. Right now, we produce about 20 programs in our studio. We also have many other programs that we're recording in satellite studios. One of the reasons I'm in the area this weekend was at Lithia Springs working in their studio. They just did an upgrade to high definition that we completed yesterday. But by having satellite studios, what we've been able to do is decentralize the recording of programming. Boy, that sounds like good techno speak, doesn't it? Decentralize the programming. What does that really mean? What that really means, to be honest with you, is it makes it easier for preachers to record programming. You know, for instance, Larry Acuff, rather than having to drive to Chattanooga like he used to, or have to drive all the way to Memphis to record programming, he's there at the church building. He can record it right there. Chad tomorrow evening can just go over to the Lithia Springs congregation, go into their studio and record some segments. Very convenient. It's not an overnight trip. It's just a quick drive down the street, take care of it, and drive back. That allows us to get good gospel preachers who aren't all right there close to us, but who are spread throughout the country to be involved in programming. And we're working with these studios. The one in McMinnville, to be honest with you, does almost as many programs as we do in Olive Branch. That studio has been very, very productive, so very thankful for that. We're in the process now of setting up our latest satellite studio, the St. Andrews Road congregation in Columbia, South Carolina. That should be up and going probably in the first quarter of next year. We'll have that studio operational. Very thankful for that. So we're working to try to expand the range of programming that we have on the network. The GBN Live program, like I said, we record that about 45 weeks out of the year, which is a pretty significant programming schedule that we have for that. This week, we're beginning a 2-week break for Thanksgiving, and then we'll take another 2-week break for Christmas as well. Some of the other programs that you may be familiar with that you see on GBN from time to time, the Searching for Truth with John Moore, that airs from time to time. The Preaching the Gospel program we talked about. In Search of the Lord's Way, we're still airing that program. Brother Mac Lyon passed away this past year, went on to his reward, but his preaching still lives. We appreciate all of his efforts over the years. The material that Don has recorded with World Video Bible School, the Truth About series, doing even more of those over the coming year. Dayspring program, this is one of the satellite studios. This is out of Tupelo, Mississippi. They have a studio there. The congregation at Gloucester Street put that in, and they record that material. It's a neat little program that actually airs all over the state of Mississippi on a bunch of little TV stations all over the state. Does a fantastic work there in the state of Mississippi. God's Kingdom, a program that's aired for years, Focus on Faith. We got Digger Doug, which is a program I hear a lot about from the kids. That Apologetics Press does. On the Rock with Caleb Colley. He's recently recorded some new episodes of that, and Lord willing, we'll have him back in the studio again soon. The Fabric of Family program, recorded in our studio in Pulaski, Tennessee. Barry Gilreath Jr. is the host of that program, and you talk about one that's taken off. That when it started, it was just a program that aired on GBN, and Fabric of Family under the oversight of the Jackson Heights congregation in Florence, Alabama, and they decided they wanted to try and syndicate it to get the program on more and more stations, and I believe they're on 8 broadcast stations now throughout the Southeast, and they're continuing to grow. The restoration history this last year, one of the things we did in association with that was a documentary on the life of Alexander Campbell that was recorded up in Bethany, West Virginia. Fundamentals of Christianity with Gary Colley. This program is actually airing now not too far from here, just north of here on the line between Georgia and Alabama. The Magby Gap congregation airs this program on Thursday evenings. Again, the very basics of Christianity. Gary Colley does an excellent job with that program. One of the things we've had in the last several years is the ability to do live programming, not only in the studio, but be able to go out and do that. A couple of years ago, we aired the Kyle Butt debate, and that debate had about 100,000 viewers, which by TV standards isn't huge, but have you heard of a brotherhood event that was seen by 100,000 people before? Significant in its impact, and we continue to hear positive things as a result of that debate, even to this day. One program that's expanding, the Voices of the Past program, always been a favorite, members of the church. One of the criteria to be on this program is you have to pass on to your reward. So we hope Chad isn't on Voices of the Past anytime soon. Reagan's sitting there saying, well, maybe. Depends on how well he behaves himself. Voices of the Past, this last summer we released a series of 14 lessons that was available to smaller congregations. They could use it as their summer series. We did that at South Haven, was very, very well received. That's going to be expanding. There'll be another set of DVDs this next year, and a companion series will be released as well, Voices of the Present, with some preachers who are still with us. So we're excited about that. And that's available on a DVD series as well as available on watching the network. This year we started a daily devotional that goes to people's email boxes. Every morning they get a little devotional thought. This is our current broadcast areas, and a few things to show you, things that have happened in the past year. This is one I'm very excited about in northern Arkansas. The yellow that you see there are a couple of broadcast stations. The elders of the Bellefonte congregation just outside of Harrison, Arkansas, were offered the opportunity to lease a television station for 3 years for $5,000. So when the elders heard about that, they signed that contract as quick as they could, brought a check there, and then turned around and called and said, what do we do now? We've got a TV station. How do we do this? Within 3 weeks of them signing that check, that station was up and running, airing GBN 24/7. That station in Harrison has a sister station out of Mountain Home, Arkansas, that broadcasts there, and they have a slight overlap between the two. But all the rest of northern Arkansas, because they're on the broadcast system there, they get picked up by different cable systems. So we have that nearly continuous swath that reaches all the way to the northern suburbs of Memphis. So that gives us a huge contiguous area, and one of the areas around that we're going to be working very hard this next year to try to expand into cable systems around there. Here in Georgia, in the Atlanta area, Southern FiberNet began carrying us. That's a fiber internet provider. Doesn't come out this far yet, but they're poised for significant growth. We're very excited about having them. The red stars that you see kind of peppering all over the map, those are GBN radio stations. Those are beginning to come online. I believe we have 8 of them that are licensed and are broadcasting now 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Those GBN radio stations, to be honest with you, I knew there's always good that happens when you preach the gospel. But the one up in Fort Payne, Alabama, after we'd been broadcasting for about 3 weeks, I received an email from one of the elders. And the email went something like this. He said, as the elders of this congregation, that we're broadcasting this material publicly, we feel that we have an obligation to listen to the material as much as possible, to make sure that the material's sound. I couldn't agree more. That's elders taking their responsibility seriously. He said, we've been on the air for about 3 weeks now, and you know what's happened? He said, as an eldership, we've grown spiritually. He said, our elders' meetings are never going to be the same. The things we talk about it, the way we discuss things, has changed. We're spending more time in the Word of God than we ever have before, and we're growing because of it. And there is the beauty of GBN radio. That people, as they go about their daily lives, a lot of times the television is something we sit down and we pay attention to, but we drive down the road, we turn on the radio. Maybe sitting at work, turn the radio on. And that continual gospel message coming through, bits and pieces, it has a changing effect on people's lives. So very thankful for the radio stations as well. Southern FiberNet is the provider here in the Atlanta area. East Alabama Cable, we've had them on for about a year now in the Phoenix City, Alabama area. Our latest addition, Pulaski Electric Service in Pulaski, Tennessee. They're now carrying us 24/7. Then another system that's one of my favorites, it's called the Purple Turtle. No, I didn't make that up. It's called the Purple Turtle television system, based out of Cape Town, South Africa. It's a very interesting delivery method because rather than sending a separate cable to people's homes, they actually deliver the content through the internet. So people who subscribe to the Purple Turtle there in South Africa just receive the programming through their internet provider. One of the neat things about that is they're not geographically restricted to just South Africa. They actually have a lot of subscribers in Nigeria, where the church has grown by leaps and bounds over the past 30 years. They've recently expanded into the UK, so people there are now getting the programming. So as the Purple Turtle is expanding and covering more and more area, they're taking GBN with them. Very thankful for that, and it gives us a good international presence. In India, we're carried by a similar type of system called Delight TV. And I will warn you now, do not do a Google search and look for Delight TV like that, because there's actually a very inappropriate channel by that name here in the States. But the Delight system does have an app that you can download on your iPhone, iPad, Android device, and you can watch GBN and other religious programs through that device. About this time last year, I was in India. Asked several preachers about it. Are you familiar with Delight TV? And the answer was, oh, yes. It's religious material, but it's full of error. I said, well, let me explain something to you. And showed them the GBN app on there and where you can get to GBN. And it just so happened, as we went there and pulled it up on one of the phones, Don Blackwell, one of his 60 seconds toward the second coming, was airing. And Don was actually standing right next to me at the time. I said, oh, this brother. And they were all excited about that. They said, this is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Good programming, and the preachers there who are so desperate for material. I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that here in the U.S. we're blessed. We are so very blessed. Preacher needs some resources. We've got lectureship books. We've got commentaries. We've got books. We've got software. We've got archives of material. We've got things coming out our ears. So much it's hard sometimes just to keep track of it all. Not so for the preachers there. Their English is oftentimes poor to read it. They can hear it and understand it. So this type of material is excellent for them. Trying to do as much as we can to get the written word to them, to expand the things in the library. But at the same time, the preaching through technology is so very useful to them. Another thing we noticed while we were there, you couldn't go into any village and you don't see satellite dishes attached to a thatched roof. They don't even have a real roof on their house, but they've got a satellite dish and they're watching television. That's the world that exists around us today. GBN website, there's still literally billions of people all over the world who can access the gospel through it. The iOS apps, the Android apps, I know the slide says 200 million. I just heard last week this is now over 300 million devices that are available. And they've had significant impact. Just look at some of the countries that have downloaded and people are watching the programming. One of them, Saudi Arabia, number 5 on the list. You know what it costs to get a missionary into Saudi Arabia? It cost him his head. If they catch you trying to evangelize in Saudi Arabia, they will behead you. But we're able to get in through electronic means and reach them with the gospel message. Just amazing what's available to us through technology. The Roku device have become very popular among a lot of our viewers, members of the church. Rokus, again, I heard an update last week from 10 million, we're now at 12 million of these devices. And we haven't even started the Christmas season yet. Actually saw Black Friday specials. Typically these sell for about $50 a piece, that they're going for $35 some Black Friday specials. So if you're interested in a Roku, that may be a good time to pick one up. These devices connect your television to the internet and allow you to watch GBN 24/7. The new smaller device, this is what they call the Roku stick, and it's not the size of a thumb drive. Very, very small thing, plugs in behind your TV. A lot of cases, nobody ever even know it's there, so you don't have a lot of wires and cables and everything hanging everywhere. Really, really neat device. We're still on the big C-band dishes, or as the acronym, a lot of people call them BUDS, Big Ugly Dishes. Anybody, anywhere in the country can receive GBN there. In this last year, one of the things that we did is we switched satellites. The satellite that we were on before, AMC-10, was nearing its end of life. And actually the last couple of months we were on it, it had some malfunctions and had some trouble. So we got moved to another satellite called Galaxy 14. And if you're like most people, it's going, wah, 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 wah. What is all that? I don't know the satellites. Let me explain it to you this way. AMC 10, we were kind of out in the boonies. Galaxy 14, we are downtown. Most of the channels that you would get on your cable system, most of them will come off of Galaxy 14. So every cable system that's out there has a dish pointed to this particular satellite. Well, what does that matter? That means every cable system can pick us up if they just add a receiver. They've already got a dish pointed at it. So it significantly makes it easier for any cable system to carry GBN. GBN radio, we talked about that a little bit earlier. You add all these different devices up, we're over 500 million, plus the availability over the internet. That honestly, we don't have any numbers for that, how many different computers people use that are hooked to the internet. Let that sink in for just a minute. Go into all the world and preach the gospel. Go into all the world. 10 years ago, Barry Gilry's dream was to go into all the world. And we're getting further and further and further penetration. Brethren, I don't know, just spend some time and think on that, even after we leave here. And remember this fact. The reason that GBN is doing this, we wouldn't be here today if it was not for this congregation. The souls who have been touched are significant. The network still continues to be funded completely by congregations and members of the church. As we've been buying equipment this last year, some of the vendors that we've talked to, they asked about commercials. We don't run any commercials. Well, what about your telethons? We don't do telethons. And how do you run a religious network and not do telethons? How do you run a network and not do commercials? Gets people's attention. And let me tell you, even people who have no shred of religious inkling in their bodies, they take notice. And as a matter of fact, at some of the equipment we bought, one of the vendors, he said, I'm taking $20,000 off the top on your price. He said, because you guys are doing this the right way, and you need to be rewarded for that. Thanks be to God. The Master Control Project, last year when Don was here, he talked about this. I'm happy to say that we are almost there. Lord willing, December 1st, we'll flip the switch, and the new Master Control system will be generating the content for the apps and for the cable systems. During the month of November, we're doing some testing with it, trying to make sure that we've got all the bugs worked out, which I wish I could say that all of them have been worked out, but not yet. Still working on that, but making good progress. Part of the reason I'm in town as well, on Friday, was meeting with our uplink provider on the northern side of Atlanta, getting the last preparations for the data line that connects us to there. We'll be playing the programming from within our facility for the first time, sending it on this data pipeline to their facility in North Atlanta, and there all they do is turn around and put it up on the satellite. That's what this master control system has done for us. What does it do? Starting December 1st, we're going to save $5,000 a month in ongoing expenses. That's huge. And item number 2, honestly, as Chad and I have talked a little bit, some of these other things really get us excited. One thing that GBN has always been restricted by is the limited storage space that they've had in Atlanta. That there's only a certain number of programs they can have, so we'll send a program and we'll play the mess out of that thing for several weeks, and then have them delete that, and we'll send more programming and play that over and over again, and then delete that and send more programming. And that has gone on and on. To be honest with you, it kind of frustrates me. There have been around 900 preaching the gospel episodes that have been recorded. And I don't think somebody should sit there and have to watch the same episode 3 or 4 times in a row. We've got the material. Now we're able to play a different episode every time, and we won't have to repeat for several years, keeping the material fresh. And I'll tell you, if you haven't seen the program in 3 years and you remember, oh, I've seen this one before, you've got a much better memory than I do. So it allows us, we have about 10,000 hours of programming available to us now, and we can pull from that instantaneously and play that on the air. We have the material, the equipment came with the ability to air 2 channels, and we're working now, Lord willing, this time next month. I will be in Texas working with some good brethren there, getting the Spanish programming going. And they'll be recording in Spanish, and we'll be able to deliver that via the internet as well. This gives us some enhancements in our scheduling and quality improvements in our internet apps, the iOS apps, the Android, the Roku, Windows Media. And if you watch GBN on one of these devices, and you haven't watched in a little while, turn it on and let me know how it looks as we're making some tweaks and some changes. So much of this are things that we're doing on our side. The final result is the quality of picture that you get in your house is it should be better than it was before. If it's not, please let me know. We'll have some more adjustment to do. The quality of the picture will be better. The variety of the programming will be better. And oh, did I mention we'll save $5,000 a month? So very excited to have this finally coming to reality. What does our 2016 look like? We have a scheduling system that's a part of the Master Control project that will be installed, should be done by the end of February, which allows us to take the scheduling, and you can ask Chad about this because he was responsible for that for several years. It's like an albatross that somebody at the network has hanging around their neck that has to do a schedule for each and every day, timed down to 1/30th of a second. Talk about tedious and painful. Scheduling system will allow us to spend approximately 1 day every 3 months scheduling things out, and then we don't have to touch it. Very thankful for that, another big savings for us. 2016, on the plan is to update our website. It's going to be a complete overhaul that we look to do to expand the on-demand content so that people can watch more programming on demand. It's always been difficult for us to get material there, and we'll finally be able to cross that bridge. We'll also have the schedule for what's showing on GBN available on the website. And another part that comes with this is as we publish something to the website, it'll automatically go to each of the apps, saving a lot of man hours trying to do that. We'll be taping Spanish materials this next year, Lord willing, working to expand our cable systems. You know, we talked about that new satellite, and it's kind of downtown for cable systems. One of the things that we've talked with some brethren about, and folks are getting excited about this, is we're going to offer to cable systems, if you want to carry GBN, we'll buy a receiver and put it in your cable system. These things cost $3,000 to $5,000. Right now we're on about 25 cable systems. So if we were to spend about $100,000 this next year on these receivers, we double the reach of GBN on cable systems. Sounds to me like a pretty good investment, and folks are getting excited about that. So we're going to make that offer to cable systems and see if we can't grow the network that way as well. This next year, we're also going to have an emphasis again on trying to reach our goal of 7,000 contributors, $25 a month. A good brother has already trying to help us with that goal, and what he has agreed to do is for the next year, he will match any new donors that we have. He will match your donations for the first year. So if you become a $25 a month contributor, he'll give us an additional $25 a month to match what you give. So if you've never given to GBN before and you would like to do that, this will be a great opportunity to do so. And also the other thing that we're going to work on this next year is trying to get some more nationwide broadcasts that hit people all over the country. Beyond 2016, again, expanding our coverage, trying to reach that goal of hitting everybody in the country with GBN 24/7. We have the ability and would like to add additional languages and very possibly some studios in places around the world where we're having recording for Spanish programming done outside the country where there's a lot of native speakers. Men who are there can record the material where they are, send it to us via the internet, and we can play it out from our facility. Adding some interactive on-demand content. Love to talk about that sometime. And basically what that is, it's a very simple concept, but is proven to be very effective. When you're watching a program, and NBC did this with the Olympics several years ago and had fantastic results. What they did is like if you were watching, this is the Winter Olympics, and you're watching, say, Lindsey Vonn doing some downhill skiing. There'd be a little pop-up that comes up and says, oh, after you watch this, would you like more information about downhill skiing? Maybe you'd like some more information about Lindsey Vonn. Maybe you'd like some more information about the U.S. Olympic team. Whichever way the person's thinking, hey, after I watch this, I want to find out more about the U.S. Olympic ski team. Click over on that. Sort of the way that people watch and interact with the internet. Oh, I'll go from this link to this link to this link. You know what NBC found? People spent more time watching. They were glued to their computer screens longer than they were the television. Now, I don't know about you, but at my house, the couch by the television is a lot more comfortable than that chair by the computer screen. But people would sit there longer. Why? Because they were able to direct what they were watching next. Let's think about that from a gospel perspective. Larry Acuff's preaching Fountain of Life. Hey, I'd like to see more material from Larry Acuff. If you would like, fantastic. Or maybe, you know, he referenced 1 Peter 3:21. I'd like to know more information about that particular verse. Click on that, and after that program takes you to another program dealing with that verse. Maybe Larry talked about this idea of baptism for the remission of sins, and I don't know what it's. I want more information on that. And the person is directing the study in the way that they want to watch. And we can drive more people to be interested in matters of salvation. Why? Because that's what I want to watch when I want to watch it. And I believe that's going to get us some very good results in the years ahead. We'll also be looking to expand our programming even further. We have our weekly email blast. If you're interested, there's a sign-up sheet in the back. On the back table as well, there's some DVDs and some wristbands and everything. That please pick that up. If you see something you don't have, take one with you. And to be honest with you, I get in trouble if I bring too much of that stuff back with me. So if the box is empty when I go back, I will be a hero, and you all will be heroes as well for helping me in that effort. There's also some newsletters back there as well. What can GBN do for you? It can help you in preparation for Bible classes with that you may teach here, or Bible classes in your home, teaching other people that way. Strengthening new converts. Somebody becomes a child of God who obeys the gospel message. Buy them a Roku. Hook up GBN for them. And one thing I've noticed about new converts, they love Bible study. They love to get as much material as they possibly can. Here's a great way. Give it to them. 24 hours a day, 7 days, as much as you want to watch, you can watch and grow in the faith. What a great blessing to those who are new babes in Christ. How can you help GBN? Continue to pray. If you want to become a $25 a month supporter, we appreciate that. This congregation is already very generous to us, and we thank you for that. For one-time contributions or Fifth Sunday, put GBN in your will. Whatever helps that you can do are very much appreciated. What can GBN do for you? Talked about buying devices. There's a wonderful sister in Christ that we knew back in Texas, passed away this last week. Very, very sweet woman. Last time I went to visit her in the nursing home. And you know what she had with her? She had an iPad. And you know what she did with the iPad? Her grandkids tried to teach her about Facebook, and she didn't care about that. And sending emails back and forth, she didn't care about that. The one button she liked, GBN. And I can watch it, and I can go anywhere in the nursing home, and I can watch my GBN. And she grew because of that, so very thankful for that. A great thing that helps people and encourages people who may be shut in. Families, evening devotionals. GBN's fantastic material for that. Sadly, too many times fathers don't know how to lead their family in a Bible discussion. Watch programming and talk about it after the program's done. Again, getting families and people involved in the Word of God. And realize that we are going into all the world, and this congregation is a very significant part of that. As we wrap up the lesson this evening, a passage of Scripture I'd like for us to look at just briefly here. 1 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 3. The Apostle Paul, in writing to the Thessalonian church, he was thankful for that church and remembered them often in prayer for three things. He remembered them for their work of faith. And faith is indeed a work. James 2 tells us faith without works is dead. A biblical faith is a belief that's so incredibly strong that it leads us to action. I believe that God exists, that He sent His Son to die for my sins, and He's documented that for me in His Word. I believe that so strongly that whatever He says, I'm going to do. Not my will, but Thy will be done. Sounds rather foundational, and it is, but I think sometimes we may not realize how deeply our faith can affect our lives. Case in point, right now, we're all sitting here rather comfortably. Nobody's worried about the ceiling above them falling down. Well, until I said something about it. And if you had lost confidence in the ceiling, you'd probably be right behind me running out that door. But we just sit here comfortably. We have so much confidence that the ceiling's going to stay right where it is, we can go about our lives without even thinking about it. That's how foundational our faith needs to be. Our work of faith. It leads us to do things sometimes we don't even think about it. Like Sunday evening, don't even think, I'm 6 o'clock, where am I going to be? With the saints? Is that a decision I have to make each week? No, it's just what I do. Just who I am. Our faith is exemplified by the way that we live. We can't separate the two from each other. Our work of faith. He also commended them for their labor of love. Different word here. The work of faith is a regular level of work. The labor of love, this is agonizing toil. This is the hard work, the difficult stuff. You know who the hardest working group of people are I've ever come across in my life? Mothers. Think about that. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's not just for 18 years, is it? Motherhood is a very demanding job. Kid gets sick, where's mama? She's right there with him. Kid may be crying and screaming, not thankful. Does that mean she's going to leave that child? No. She's going to stay there anyways. Why? She's motivated by love. Let me tell you, kids, they get sick. They can do some pretty nasty things. Is the mama going to walk away and say, I'm not going to deal with that? No. She stays there and she continues working. That labor of love. Paul commended the Thessalonian brethren for that. If we were to have a love like they did, the person who has a labor of love is the person who loves the Lord's church, loves the Lord so much that they will work diligently. What if the toilet needs to be scrubbed? Not a problem. What if nobody says thank you? Oh, well, I'm just not, nobody appreciates me, I'm not going to. Is that a labor of love? No. The labor of love is the person who says, I don't care if anybody notices. I am going to do it. I am going to stick to it. I am going to labor. Why? Because I love the church. There's no disappointment that's going to get in my way. There's no expectation of somebody acknowledging me or giving me special treatment or anything. Why? I'm motivated by love. Brethren, that's the way our love needs to be. So strong that it leads us to labor tirelessly in the Lord's kingdom. So also thankful for their patience of hope. Now this word that's translated patience here, I got to tell you, by the time we finished up Friday evening, it was about 6 o'clock. I was on the far north side of Atlanta, and I had to drive back down to the area there by Lithia Springs. You guys ever try and do that on a Friday evening? I think everybody was doing that Friday evening. There's traffic everywhere. And I was right there. I didn't lose my temper once. Boy, I was patient. Isn't that how we think of patience a lot of times? That's not this word. You see, this word for patience is joyful endurance. The person who has biblical patience in rush hour traffic isn't the person who's like this. It's the person who can deal with that traffic with a smile on their face. Boy, that person needs to be institutionalized, don't you think? How can you deal with that with a smile on your face? Patience. The answer is in the text. Patience of hope. Hope in what? What's a Christian's hope? Our hope is that expectation of the reward we have ahead of us in heaven. And when I am focused on that goal, what happens in this world? It's but a vapor. It's going away. Let me ask you a question. Does anybody in here doubt the fact that as we get older, these bodies we live in tend to fall apart? There's no doubt in my mind. Mine's starting to fall apart in places, and it happens. Is this a news flash to anybody? It's going to happen to us. So what? What does it matter? This isn't meant to be permanent. 70, maybe 80 years. Heaven lasts for eternity. Are there going to be struggles in this life? Yeah. Disappointments? Yeah. Pain? Not a surprise to anybody. But when we keep our focus there on heaven and realize that anything that happens here, it's temporary. It's going to end. But where we're headed, that never ends. It's never going to quit. And when I keep my eye focused on heaven, and I realize that's the reward that the Lord has worked since the foundation of the earth to prepare for you and me, I can put up with anything, can't I? Whatever troubles and struggles this world has, it doesn't matter. Focused on heaven. Patience of hope. What a rich phrase. And I hope and I pray that these three qualities that we've looked at here are qualities that are foundational to your life. And you abound more and more in these. Your labor of love, your patience of hope, your work of faith. If you're here with us this evening as a child of God and you look at your life and you say, I'm lacking some of these qualities in my life, we'd like to pray for you to help you in this matter. If there's other things that you're struggling with in your life, let us know. We can pray for you. If there's sin in your life that you need to repent of publicly and confess, we'll pray for that as well. Maybe you're here tonight and you're not yet a child of God. You haven't been obedient to the Lord in baptism. Being a believer that has repented of their sins, willing to confess His name before men. That describes you, and you want to make it right. You want to have that hope in heaven. That when you pass from this earth, you know exactly where you're going. We'd like that for you. If you just let us know of your need, while together we stand and we sing.